Let's solve this IELTS academic reading passage from Cambridge IELTS Book 20. The title of the passage is Procrastination. The meaning is explained in the subtitle and the first sentence. Procrastination means delaying an important job by doing something else. For example, watching videos or checking your phone instead of studying for a test. We'll solve the questions together. For each question, read it, pause, and try to find the answer. After that, I'll explain the answer. First, we have matching information questions. We'll do these last. I'll explain the reason for this when we do them. So we start with gap fill questions. Here's question 17, the first gap fill question. Pause here and try to find the answer. Let's check. These gap fill questions do not have any capitalized words or numbers, so they are not very easy to locate in the passage. So we scan the questions for other words which can be easy to locate. Words like mood management, self-esteem, chronic, and brain. In the passage, we see some of them in paragraph B. So I know that the answer to question 17 should be from paragraph A or B. Next, focus on the question and understand it. There are two opinions. Many people believe procrastination is the result of or procrastination is because of something. Other people believe it is because people cannot organize time well. In the passage, the beginning of paragraph B, contrary to popular belief, helps. Contrary means opposite. Popular belief is what many people believe. This not does not mean it is not a popular belief. It means the popular belief is wrong. So this sentence says procrastination is due to laziness or poor time management. This gives two opinions about procrastination in a single sentence. Poor time management is an inability to organize time efficiently. The other popular belief is laziness. So the answer to question 17 is laziness. When looking for the answer, you may wonder whether the answer could be in paragraph A. To quickly understand what a paragraph is mainly about, we can use a technique called sentence start scan. This means quickly reading the first few words of each sentence. After 5 or 6 words, you usually know the main idea of the sentence. Look at the paragraph here. If you read just the first few words of each sentence, you already get an idea of what this paragraph is doing. Procrastination is the habit of, we all do it from time to time, we might be composing a message. These sentence starts tell us this paragraph is defining procrastination and giving examples, not explaining causes. So using a sentence start scan, we can quickly decide whether a paragraph is relevant or not. So if the question is asking about reasons for procrastination, paragraph A is unlikely to contain the answer. If a sentence feels connected to the question, then read it carefully. This technique is useful in other question types as well, such as list of headings, multiple choice questions, and matching information questions. Here are the meanings of each sentence from paragraph A, and here are the meanings of paragraph B. Pause here if you want to understand them in detail. Now we move on to questions 18 and 19. They are in the same paragraph in the questions. Sometimes the sentences before and after help us find and confirm the answer. This is answer 17 in the passage. Now pause here and try to find the answers. Let's check. There are many same or similar words in the questions and the passage which confirm the answer should be from paragraph B. Let's understand the questions. The first sentence here is connected to the previous question. It tells us the reason for procrastination. Question 18 says there are two things that can happen if we delay things or if we procrastinate. The first one is given: damage or harm self esteem. The second is that we feel something when we think about the delayed task. Damage self esteem means threatens self worth, makes us anxious means cause us to feel anxious. So the answer to question 18 is anxious. Question 19 says there was a research comparing people who procrastinate regularly and people who do not procrastinate. The result found differences in two parts of the brain. One part regulates or controls emotions, the other part identifies or recognizes something. This is what we have to find. What does that part of the brain identify? Regulating emotions are emotion regulation. Identifying means detection of. So the answer to question 19 is threats. Here are the meanings of each sentence from paragraph B. Now we move on to questions 20 and 21. Pause here and try to find the answers. Let's check. There are some common words in the questions and paragraph C: emotionally loaded, difficult, and low self esteem. This tells us the location of the answers. The first sentence in the questions means that we procrastinate because the tasks are emotionally loaded or are difficult. In question 20, we are looking for an example of such tasks. Such as in the paragraph is important. It means, for example. The information in two sentences in the question is in a single sentence in the paragraph. One important confusion here could be the difference between taking and giving exams. A student takes exams, a teacher or examiner gives exams. So, when you are preparing for exams, it means you're getting ready to take exams. The answer to question 20 is exams. Moving on to question 21. It says two things about people who procrastinate. They have low self esteem. We have to find the other thing. In the question, low self esteem is mentioned after the blank. In the passage, low self esteem is mentioned first. The next sentence says, another group of people who procrastinate. This tells us that the information in one sentence in the question is in two sentences in the passage. The other type of people who tend to procrastinate are perfectionists. That is, people who want everything to be perfect. The answer to question 21 is perfectionists. Here's question 22. Pause here and try to find the answer. Let's check. This is where we found the answer to the previous question. Soon after, we see the words mood and emotions. The question says four things. Procrastination manages emotions for a short time. Then we feel something. Then our mood becomes worse. Then we procrastinate more. What do we feel in the second step? In the paragraph, first it is mentioned that we use procrastination to avoid negative emotions and repair our mood. The question says something similar: managing emotions. The actual answer in the passage starts from in the long run, which is the opposite of short term. The question says procrastination is a short term method to manage emotions. The passage says it is not a long-term method. Then it says mood repair is temporary. This means the same thing again. Afterwards, people tend to be left with a sense of guilt, which means they feel guilt. The answer to question 22 is guilt. Here are the meanings of each sentence from paragraph C. Pause here if you want to understand it in detail. Here are the answers of all the gap fill questions and their locations in the passage. We followed this method for finding the answers. The answers are in order. This helps a lot. Start with finding the location keywords, words like self-esteem and chronic. Then understand the question and look for the answer. Now we start with multiple choice questions. Here we have to choose two answers from each question. Here are questions 23 and 24. Two options are correct. Pause here and try to find the answers. Let's check. First, we find the tentative location of the answers in the passage. For this, these words from the question can help. Employees, salaries, jobs, and colleagues. We see these mentioned in paragraph D. The question is about comparison between employees who procrastinate and employees who do not procrastinate. It is asking what two things are compared. The five options are salaries, quality of work, how long they stay in one job, do they enjoy their work life, and their relationship with their colleagues. In the paragraph, this sentence starts with other research shows that employees. Before this, there is something about students and university, not about work and employees. So we can be sure that the answer is after this. In this part of the paragraph, three things are mentioned. Negative outcomes, which could be inferior quality of work, less employment stability, which is they can't keep jobs for long, and less income, that is lower salaries. The first sentence here in the paragraph says that employees procrastinate and have negative outcomes. It is not about a comparison between procrastinators and non procrastinators. The comparison was in the survey. It is mentioned from this sentence onwards. And the comparison is only about two things: income and employment stability. So, negative outcomes were not compared, they are just mentioned. The answers to questions 23 and 24 are A and C. Here are the meanings of each sentence from paragraph D. Pause here if you want to understand it in detail. Here are questions 25 and 26. Two options are correct. Pause here and try to find the answer. Let's check. First, we find the tentative location of the answers in the passage. The question mentions a cycle of procrastination. Paragraph F mentions the vicious cycle of procrastination. A quick reading tip. To find the location of the answers, first look for easy to spot words like capital letters, numbers, or names. If there are no such words, read the question and then read the first sentence of each paragraph. This works in this question because of the phrase, a cycle of procrastination. This technique works for all question types, but especially for matching information questions, that is, which paragraph or section contains the information. A vicious cycle means a bad cycle that repeats itself. For example, bad sleep leads to low energy, which leads to poor work. Poor work leads to stress. Stress leads to even less sleep. Procrastination works in a similar way. The opposite of this is a virtuous cycle. A virtuous cycle is a good cycle that repeats itself. For example, regular exercise gives you more energy. More energy helps you work better. Better work reduces stress. And lower stress helps you sleep better. And so it is easier to exercise regularly. In this passage, procrastination creates a vicious cycle. Procrastination makes us feel worse, and that leads to more procrastination. The question is asking for recommendation to stop procrastination. Recommendation means advice about what to do. The paragraph mentions many ways to stop procrastinating. They are in bold on screen. So we need to see which of these match the options in the question. Option A is not judging ourselves harshly. This means being kind to ourselves. Option B is saying we should have manageable aims or realistic goals. Option C is rewarding ourselves for tasks achieved. This means if we finish a task, we should treat ourselves. Option D is prioritizing tasks, which means doing the important work first. Option E is avoiding things that stop us from concentrating or focusing. This is a relatively difficult question. The paragraph mentions many ways to stop procrastination. So we need to see which of these are mentioned in the question. Fend off distractions means option E, avoiding things that stop us concentrating. Forgiving ourselves means option A, not judging ourselves harshly. Option D is prioritize tasks according to their importance. This means which task is more important and which is less important, and do the more important task first. The paragraph has remind ourselves why the task is important, but it doesn't say anything about prioritizing or which task is more important. This is not mentioned. So the answers to questions 25 and 26 are A and E. Here are the meanings of each sentence from paragraph F. Pause here if you want to understand it in detail. Here are the final answers and where they come from in the passage. In multiple choice questions, it helps to first narrow down the search area. Then we compare the information in the passage with the options and eliminate the incorrect ones. Now we start with matching information questions. That is, which paragraph contains the information. Here are the three questions. These are the first two paragraphs of the passage. Now paragraphs C and D, and here are paragraphs E and F. Pause here and try to find the answers. Let's check. I usually prefer to do this question type last because it becomes easier after you know the passage a little. For matching information questions, first read and understand all the questions. Then there are different ways to find the answers. Sometimes there are things you have already read while solving the other questions that help. Sometimes the questions have hints. And if these two methods don't help, then we read the first sentence of each paragraph. In this passage, we have already solved the gap fill questions and MCQs. Let's start with question 14. We are looking for two things here: reasons for procrastination And these are wrong reasons, kind of like myths about procrastination. While doing gap fill question 17, we read about reasons for procrastination, laziness, and poor time management. We found these in paragraph B, and we also haven't really read paragraph A till now. To quickly see what paragraph A is about, we use sentence start scan. We read the first few words of each sentence to get the main idea. This paragraph is defining procrastination and giving examples, not explaining causes. Paragraph B starts with: contrary to popular belief, procrastination is not due to laziness or poor time management. Popular belief means assumption, contrary means the opposite of. So, this tells us the common belief is that procrastination is due to laziness or poor time management, but that belief is wrong. Both parts of the question are in the first sentence of paragraph B. The answer to question 14 is B. We also got the answer to question 17 from the same sentence. Here are the meanings of each sentence from paragraph B. Pause here if you want to understand it in detail. Moving on to question 15. Reference to the realization that others also procrastinate. We are looking for something like: I'm not the only one who procrastinates, or we are not the only ones who procrastinate. Other people also procrastinate. While doing questions 25 and 26, we read paragraph F. In paragraph F, we have different ways to stop procrastinating. They are in bold on screen. One of the suggestions is we should remind ourselves that we are not the first person to procrastinate, nor the last. This means other people procrastinate too. So, the answer to question 15 is F. Here are the meanings of each sentence from paragraph F. Pause here if you want to understand it in detail. Moving on to question 16. Neurological evidence of a link between procrastination and emotion. Neurological means related to the brain or nervous system. So, here we are looking for a link between procrastination and emotions connected to the brain. We saw mention of the brain while looking for question 19. So, that's where we look first. This sentence is saying many things. Let's break it down. Scientists scanned the people's brains. They compared people who procrastinate a lot with people who don't procrastinate. They found differences in the parts of the brain that control emotions and detect threats. Threats are not mentioned in the question. Only the part of the brain which controls emotions is mentioned in the question. So, there is neurological evidence because there was research of brain, and this evidence connects procrastination and emotions. So, the answer to question 16 is B. Here are the meanings of each sentence from paragraph B. Pause here if you want to understand it in detail. One confusion in question 16 could be that paragraph E mentions health a lot, so you may expect the answer to be here. But there is nothing about brain or neurological evidence in paragraph E. So here are all the answers of matching information questions and their locations in the passage. One final takeaway from this passage: none of the answers came from paragraphs A or E in any of the question types. This shows why using the right strategy for each question type saves time. For gap fill and multiple choice questions, we first found the tentative location of the answers instead of reading everything. And that's why it helps to do matching information last. For your reference, here are the meanings of each sentence from paragraph A, and here are the meanings of paragraph E. Pause here if you want to understand them in detail. With this, we are done with all the questions of Book 20, Test 2, Passage 2. I'll start with Passage 3 in the next video. Hope this helped you. All the very best.